Does your book say anything about how divided Britain is at the moment? For example, Brexit.
Yes, it does. It does, because we're talking about British identity, and I started thinking about the book while listening to the Brexit referendum speeches on both sides. And it occurred to me that what I was really listening to wasn't exclusively arguments and discussions and thoughts about our future. They were discussions about our past. How do we see ourselves? Are we this free trading Victorian imperial nation, and that's who we are, and so that's who we need to be? Or does it go back further? Do we have European roots? Are we a Western humanist European country? And so I was fascinated by these two views we have of our identity, and neither of them are marginal. The vote was basically 50-50. So these are two very strong but very different senses of who we are. So yes, the book does deal with the fractures, because we see those particularly. I alluded a little to the statue wars and the classroom wars, and how we talk about what curriculums we teach. What history should we now be looking at? And many of the curriculums have been ripped up and looked at afresh, and we're including women's history, we're including history of empire, we're including history of slavery. We're looking at lots of things which weren't traditionally in the curriculum, but that again brings fractures and dissent. And almost any day of the week you can turn on the radio and listen to politicians and commentators getting quite angry on both sides about what we should be thinking about these things. And at the recent party conference season, there was talk by the main parties of reclaiming our history. This has now become an important political element in the general discourse. And so yes, fractures are mentioned in terms of all of those things which we are seeing now get people out on the streets, whether it's statues, whether it's slavery, whether it's what's being taught in the classroom. That really is the wrapper in the book, in the introduction and the conclusion, which poses the question, so who are we and where do we come from? And then the book takes you through all of that. And in the conclusion, we say pretty much, well, we do see there is this very long history, and maybe we should think a little beyond just our imperial history and think of other things that we've been. We've been a Scandinavian nation. We've been a very French-facing nation. We've been part of the Roman Empire. We've been a great number of things. So we can draw on many different structures to think about who we want to be next. So yes, I think fracture is at the center of the book, but also as you go through the different periods, this has happened in other times and in other places. After some of the invasions, after the Anglo-Saxons and the Celts, assimilation, a certain degree of people moving, exile into Wales or into Brittany. You think then of the Vikings, displacement of peoples, multiple cultures in Britain with the Anglo-Saxon Britain and Viking Britain and the Danelaw, the Norman invasion, of course, beloved of Hollywood, the Anglo-Saxons, now the underclass, the Normans ruling everything. So yes, we are at a moment where Britain is quite fractured, but we also have been there before, and we do come out of it.